systems. Really interesting idea of having a mobile phone implanted in your head. Interested whether that's ever going to happen. This is our third speech, and each of the speeches that are performed at Toastmasters have specific objectives, which are included on the agenda if you'd like to look at them. This is get to the point, so it needs to be a well-organised speech with a clear beginning, middle and an end, and clearly communicating a specific and a general point. So, please welcome to the stage with a speech entitled Invisible Hand of Nature, Nelly Terekhova.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. In the not too distant past, it was very common for the scientists to choose a narrow topic for their research and focus just on that for their whole scientific careers. And the reason for that was that the narrower the topic, the better they can focus on it, and the deeper they can dig. And I think this is a valid way to limit the areas that you're going to focus on in your scientific career. But it also poses a risk of missing out on some really important connections that exist between not just different areas within one science, but between different sciences themselves. So in the next few minutes, I would like to show you how two sciences with no apparent connections between them can in fact help shape and influence each other. I'm going to do that based on an example from two great British scientists, whose names are very dear to Scottish ears. A Scot, Adam Smith, and an Englishman who was living and studying in Edinburgh, Charles Darwin. Adam Smith was born 90 years before Darwin and died before Darwin was even born. So let's start with him. As most of you would know, he was a very famous economist and in fact a founder of modern economic theory. His most famous idea was that of an invisible hand of the market. It explained how people, while pursuing their own goals, in fact are led by this invisible hand to act in a way that benefits the society as a whole. Charles Darwin was a famous naturalist, and his most famous ideas revolved around the thought that given an almost unlimited capability to breed, but a very limited supply of resources, such as food, shelter, and drink, plants and animals struggle for existence. And we can look at these two different works and wonder what can be similar between economics and natural history. Well, let's look at their ideas in a little bit more detail. Adam Smith was saying that it's in human nature to want to buy cheaper and sell more expensively. And to do that, people and firms need to exercise any advantage they might have against other market participants. And if a company doesn't have any advantages, then it's not economically efficient and it's going to go broke and be pushed out of the market. So only the strongest firms will stay in the market. Does that sound familiar? Almost a century later, Charles Darwin formulated his law of natural selection, or what we now call survival of the fittest. He was saying that not all the plants and animals have the same chance of survival. Those that have any advantages, those that are stronger, faster, have sharper claws, or better camouflage, they have a better chance of getting the resources they need and staying alive. And as for those that don't have any advantages, well, nature is not going to be magnanimous to them. They're going to probably end up being eaten or starving to death. To give you another example, Adam Smith was saying that market environment changes all the time, and firms need to constantly adapt to these changes. So if a company was very efficient one day, it might not be so competent next day because of the changing demand. It quite often happens that a firm has a very unique selling point, it's at the height of its market power, everyone's raging about it, and then a few months later, fashion changed, people want something else, nobody wants that stuff anymore. So if the company is not good at adapting to this, then they're probably going to lose their market advantage and be pushed out of the market. In a very similar way, Charles Darwin was saying that environment changes all the time. Might be due to climate change, due to migration of animals that are food to other animals, any number of factors. But all the plants and animals, all the species need to constantly adapt to this changing environment. And if they don't, even if they're the strongest ones, but they can't adjust, they're not going to survive for a long time. And just to give you one more final example, Adam Smith was saying that the market will always reach equilibrium if it's left alone. It's because it's in human nature to act in a way that benefits the society as a whole, even though they're only trying to pursue their own goals. And when the government is trying to interfere in the economy, even though they have best interests at heart, supposedly, but they are interfering in this natural process, and they prevent the market from reaching equilibrium. Charles Darwin, years later, was formulating his idea of natural selection that I mentioned earlier, and saying how this is the most natural way that the environment can exist. He was contrasting that with an idea of artificial selection, or what we now call selective breeding. He was saying that people might want to breed a certain type of animals or certain type of plants. They might have good reasons for that, but they are interfering with this natural process, and that leads to suboptimal results for the whole environment. There is evidence that Charles Darwin was well aware of Adam Smith's work. So these examples show how two sciences that you wouldn't quite call very closely related can in fact help shape each other, and how the ideas of one researcher can influence so much the ideas of another one, even though the fields they work in are nothing similar.